Hi, welcome to part 2 of a commentary on Marriage of Figaro. So, I left you off having walked you through the final resolution, basically the structure of a general opera buffa, and walked you through a little bit the specific plot structure of the Marriage of Figaro. I want to now zoom in and talk a little bit about the finale, this new musical dramatic structure, new to opera buffa. So this is from a letter that Lorenzo da Ponte wrote, and he describes the challenges of the finale. And there's a couple of important terms or ideas he brings here. One is that the finale is essentially a microcosm of, it's really a drama in and of itself, and has to be structured like the larger drama in order to work. And then second of all, he introduces this idea called the stretta, which is the Italian word means to pinch or telescope. And that's an idea I've already introduced a bit, this sense of acceleration. Sometimes this happens literally in terms of tempo. The tempo gets faster, and in fact at the end of these finales you'll hear the tempo get faster. But the principle is also important in a more general sense of increasing the rate of action. The dramatic pacing accelerates. Things happen faster until they all come together at one point where it seems like several things are happening at once. This is a kind of a dramatic stretto, and the musical stretto is a corollary to it. So, and he makes a little pun here that whether you're pinching together the elements of the story or you're pinching your brain, it doesn't matter. People, because he feels like his brain is being pinched at these moments. So let's look more specifically at this Act 2 finale. I mean, I'm always find myself overstating the matters about how wonderful the Marriage of Figaro is, but really the 25 minutes that are the Act 2 finale are, I think, the pinnacle not just of Mozart's drama and operatic drama, but really kind of a high point in Western theater. I think it actually exceeds even the Shakespeare comedies in its how beautifully structured it is. So the finale lasts about 25 minutes, and you will watch it in these 2 YouTube clips, which have subtitles. But really go through this carefully and try to understand. And I would watch them while you're also following along the basic plot points or the organization of numbers. So it's organized in waves or conflicts. So one conflict is set up, then it's resolved only to lead to another conflict. And this happens essentially 4 times. So I'm assuming you basically know the plot. You need to. If you don't, go back and read it. But the conflict begins with the fact that Cherubino has been inside the Countess's closet, and the Count is suspicious of it. He's pretty sure that's Cherubino in there. So he's come back with the key to get in there. So the finale starts with just he and the Countess essentially arguing, and the Countess thinks Cherubino's in the closet too, because he certainly was in the closet. Little do they know that the Cherubino has already escaped. He's jumped out the window, and Susanna has put herself in the closet, so in his place, which was the excuse the whole time that the Countess was making up. So there's an extremely tense duet. That, if you will go back and recall the discussion of dance forms, this duet is allegro and it is a march. When the Count opens the door, unlocks the door, and out comes Susanna, both he and the Countess are stunned. The music changes to a minuet. Now that's an aristocratic dance form, but Susanna is the one who's doing the dancing, or at least she's metaphorically doing the dancing. she presents herself and says, "Well, here I am. I'm the offender that you were looking for." And of course, the Count looked like he has egg on his face. I'll discuss this moment in a later discussion in my next unit, the next week's unit on the 19th century opera. This is a kind of what I call a frozen moment, when characters are stunned by a dramatic reversal, or at least some of the characters are stunned by the dramatic reversal. One of the characters, in this case, Susanna, knows what's going on, and she sings not at a faster tempo, but in faster values, which implies that she's experiencing, that she's singing in a faster tempo. It also implies that the other two characters, which are stunned, are kind of frozen in slow motion. They're kind of in the dark, and so the characters experience time differently. It's something that only music can create. You could not recreate this in a spoken play. You'd have to be able to superimpose different musical rhythms and basically a different sense of musical time between the two different characters to be able to project this experience. It's extremely subtle. Mozart does it on a number of occasions. Rossini picks up on this idea. So once the Count and Countess realize that nobody else is in the closet, the tempo breaks, and then the Count eventually apologizes. So this big conflict about exactly who was in the closet, the Count's jealousy, all of that is resolved, wrapped up, and done. End of conflict one. Of course, that's only a quarter of the way through. So new conflict, Figaro, and the new conflict is often introduced by a new character. So Figaro jumps in, so now we have 4 people on stage. We've gone from started 2, added Suzanne, and now we're adding Figaro. Figaro introduces yet another dance form, the passe-pied, fast, characteristic of peasant dance. He's anticipating the celebration for his wedding. He's trying to press the Count to let him get married. The Count, of course being the Count, can put his foot down and he calls a different dance. Essentially, you hear the change in the sense of meter from a 3/8 passe-pied to a much slower, deliberate gavotte. A noble dance, and the Count won't budge. He has possession of this letter. This letter that Figaro had written to him anonymously, telling him that there was someone that had eyes on his wife. In other words, he's sent a letter trying to stir up the Count's suspicions. Well, little does Figaro know that there is someone that has his eyes on the Count, his wife. It was Cherubino, and that Cherubino was actually in her closet, and that the Count was suspicious of it. So this is actually true, and Figaro is stirring up, but much more trouble than he imagines. And the Count and Countess have already explained to the Count who wrote the letter and why he did it. So the Count knows Figaro wrote it, and he's caught Figaro in a lie. So, definitely a real conflict. Now, interesting enough, that conflict actually gets dropped, and another one enters with a new character, and this is Antonio the gardener. He's a truly comic character. He saw Cherubino jump out the window. So, this immediately restirs the Count's suspicions, because he sees that Cherubino very well may have been in that closet. So Figaro explains that he's the one who jumped out the window. And he explains it was because he was fretting about that letter that he had written. He was worried about it. So the Count has caught Figaro in the lie here. But Figaro sort of sacrifices himself to try to save Cherubino, because he knows full well that Cherubino was in there and had left. And had jumped out the window. So he's trying to take the blame for Cherubino. Well, the problem is that Antonio has found the commission that fell out of Cherubino's pocket, Cherubino's military commission. Well, Figaro has to explain why if he's the one who jumped out the window, why he was carrying the commission. Well, the Countess and Susanna help him get out of this trap, because the commission actually had needed sealing. It was never properly sealed. So they're able to convey to Figaro that the commission needed sealing, and that's why he would have had it. So this resolves that conflict. But there's one final conflict, and that is Marcellina. She still has her suit pending over Figaro's head, and she and Basilio and Don Bartolo all show up, so Antonio had left. So you subtract him, but then you add 3 more, and you have 7 characters on stage. And this is also the point of highest conflict, because there is no resolution to this problem. Figaro owes Marcellina money, and she, if he can't pay her, she insists that he marry her. So this is how the second act ends, with the one beautiful Mozart's way of handling this is particularly elegant. You have 7 characters. Well, you don't have 7 different attitudes. He simply divides the groups up into 2 opposing sides. A quartet, the Count, Marcellina, Basilio, and Bartolo, all on one side, who don't want Figaro to get married. And then the other side, the Countess, Susanna, and Figaro, who of course Figaro and Susanna of course want to get married. So you have the 4 against the 3. And Mozart basically has a dialogue between the 2. And the musical structure of this septet follows this conflict between these 2 different groups. So enjoy that. It is truly a joy to experience.